Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of Crit Hit Reviews with your host, Arlyeon. On today's episode, I'll be talking about Thomas Moon Kang's deck-building bullet hell, One Step from Eden. Find out if I thought this title was a tasty bit of forbidden fruit, or if my time would have been better spent gardening. P.S. I'd like to offer a kindly thanks to Saevrick for the copy of this game he gifted me. That gesture gave me the warm fuzzies, oh yes. Right, story time. So, you count yourself among a sparse handful of travelers who set out on a perilous journey in search of Eden. Not the biblical one. Rather, it's the futuristic city that serves as the last bastion of humanity in a harsh world. At least, I'm pretty sure. To be fair, the game doesn't actually provide that much on a narrative front, as it instead focuses on the monster-riddled murder fest that is the journey. Still, it's not entirely lacking, since the game does provide a tiny bit of characterization for the various characters in the form of their boss banter, which helps add a bit of flavor to the encounters. And if you can brave the journey to its conclusion, there is a small handful of endings to unearth. That said, the crux of what had me delving deeper into this title was its mechanics. Whilst I've been made aware by this point that the game pays homage to the Mega Man Battle Network games, I've personally never played anything like this, what with its hybridization of deck-building elements for your attacks and the gradually escalating bullet hell mechanics you're pitted off against. What's more, despite the saturated shot spam enemies can muster, it still ends up feeling strategic. The interplay of seeking out avenues for evasion while trying to land a decisive blow and possibly even a devastating sequence of cards makes this a lot more frantic than its more turn-based peers. There's just something to be said for needing to mind my resources while dodging death, as well as tensely waiting for my deck to finish shuffling so I can go on the offensive again. And just the sheer diversity and nuance between the various cards you can collect provides so many opportunities for killer synergies and strategies. Something which is then further compounded by the branching card upgrade system that exists, which can change up the role or importance of a card within your deck. So, also a big kudos on the whole preview system, which provides players with a means of actually seeing how the spell executes to get a feeling for aiming for it, and where it would fit in their existing attack cycle, as well as what an upgrade would even do to it. Admittedly, since Eden's a roguelike and randomizes both the obstacles and the opportunities you encounter, it can be tricky to find the items you're looking for, especially as you gradually increase your account level by playing it, which in turn increases the number of cards and relics that you can encounter. That said, you can modify the focus of your cards you earn up to 2 times, making certain brands read types of cards more likely to be encountered. Admittedly, for each focus you have, your luck is reduced, which influences the rarity of cards and relics encountered. That said, higher luck also means higher difficulty, so this adjustment isn't necessarily a bad thing one way or the other. But speaking of fundamentals, there was another element to Eden I found myself in dire need of mastering, and that was the plethora of characters that end up in your disposal. While you only start out with the default protagonist Saffron, you're able to unlock a repertoire of 9 characters to choose between, all of whom have distinct starting decks, but more importantly, relics and basic actions which enable vastly different playing strategies. Whether it's empowering robots to do the dirty work for you as Hazel, or the money-centric playstyles of Shizo and the Shopkeeper, the characters have very distinct and personal flavors. And perhaps most tellingly, they'll end up feeling quite reminiscent of the boss fights you'll have encountered them in, which is a genuinely solid touch. But that's not even all. You can also unlock another 9 loadouts, the likes of which provide alternative but altogether interesting kits to tinker with. Whilst I found some of them to be rather tricky, they all carry very distinct identities and add a lot more replay value to the game. And that's saying something, since the process of learning Eden's ropes will take a number of playthroughs in itself. Because while it is fair, that's not to say it's easy. Oftentimes, exploration can feel a bit like a brutal balancing act, with a need to seek out experience and resources to better my kit, and the occasional need to play it safe because I got my teeth kicked in. The game gives you a generally solid idea of the encounters that you're going to come across, and whilst it never explicitly tells you what you'll get from them, it's not overly long until you're able to make the association. Elites are harder than normal fights, and not only do they give you a card, they also give a relic and oodles of experience. And since leveling also gives you a relic, that makes them a great source of advancement. Obstacle stages provide the ability to find upgraded cards in exchange for just complicating your life. Inversely, hostage rooms and chest rooms provide safer experiences. Fuck you, mimic chests, though the rewards aren't guaranteed. After all, it's possible to let the hostages die to not so friendly fire, or your kit just not being up to snuff, and there's several different types of chests, all of which have different strategies for cracking them open. In fact, the most consistent room types are the most unique, being the campfires, which provide you healing, as well as the chance to meet up with some of the NPCs you've encountered, and the shopkeep, who eat your money in exchange for the ability to buy cards, relics, upgrades, and the much vaunted removals. This latter is especially noteworthy actually, since not only can you use them to remove cards from your deck, they can also be used to remove artifacts that are messing with you due to unwanted synergies or side effects, and they can also be used as side effects of the merchant's other services, the packs. And these are a doozy, that can frequently end a run if you're not careful. Whilst the modifiers they provide are generally short-lived, they tend to be extremely potent, ranging from teleporting to the exact opposite spot on the field when you cast a spell, randomly barraging the area with fire or dropping swords on you, or just more to-the-point things like dropping your defense to the floor. Whilst they tend to be in exchange for fairly potent boons, her tendencies to set up shop adjacent to an area's boss means the majority of these effects will be in play during the fight, complicating these encounters to a substantial degree. This also includes if you either intentionally or accidentally deck her, as she will more than happily demonstrate just why she's the only optional boss encounter in the game. Likely by dropping an ATM on your head and wiping you out from existence in a killer display of capitalism. The rest of the bosses aren't slouches though. Though they may start out fairly straightforward, as you progress through the game's zones, they'll begin to pop up in tiers, gaining more health, damage, new attacks, and generally growing in ruthlessness. Given they all have very distinct strategies, carefully trying to control who I would fight early on and later in a game actually became a very central part of my strategies, especially given the multiple finales you can bumble into. See, provided you beat a boss, you're given the option to either finish them off, to gain a relic, experience, and some solid cards, or you can choose to spare them. Mechanically, sparing them forgoes the sweet fruits of murder, but it does give you a solid amount of healing and also has them low-key jumping in to assist you during fights or at the campfires like mentioned earlier. It also plays into the game's final act, as there's a trio of endings, each with their own respective final boss. It's a distinctly neat element and definitely factors into some of the strategic and story-related choices, especially for those folks determined to unlock things, as you can unlock cosmetic rewards through the pacifist route or acquiring certain achievements, but the additional loadouts I mentioned early on are strictly tied to completing the game with a neutral or genocide ending. The ability to loop a run and fight more challenging variations of everything is also tied to the genocide route for reasons, but that's not the only way to challenge yourself. See, there's also the unlockable Hell modes, a set of gradually stacking modifiers that make the game infernally hard. Provided you can clear the game on whatever your highest one is, you can ascend to the next one, until it eventually culminates in the most try-hard of difficulty settings, Hell Mode 14, where you're playing this bullet hell with 1 health. Yup, that's a thing. And, on the note of additional play modes, there's also co-op mode, which I did try out alongside the Walking Virus. This was admittedly a very mixed experience to try, as it forces both players to use the same character, which can work out quite well with some characters, and less so with others. And whilst the additional damage can be helpful, the fact that the players share health means the runs can end very abruptly from sudden bursts of damage. That said, the element I found the least enjoyable was the manner in which the players shared decks, and so it was very possible to interfere with the intended sequence of spell cards and the placement of them. Anyways, with that out of the way, onwards to the aesthetics. A segment I gotta do out of order because holy crap, I adore the music in this game. Like, as a whole, the soundtrack to this game is solid. But I found myself looking forward to the boss theme so much because they're just so vibrant and catchy. And I am just here for my girl Violet, who I have to make a very special mention for, because the manner in which her entire boss fight syncs up to the soundtrack, regardless of what she's doing, is great. Okay? It's friggin' amazing. And just the way that all of them are complementary to their boss fights is great, but hers is super unique for this, and I love it so much. Okay. Gonna dial it back a second. Anyways, the game isn't a slouch when it comes to the visuals either. Overall, the game has some great visuals. Things do get a bit cluttered at times, courtesy of the bevy of bullets bouncing about, but it's appealing. Also, I was extremely fond of the character designs, enough so in fact that when I discovered that you could unlock the alternate outfits, I went out of my way to go and get them for all the characters. And they're pretty neat since they tend to have outright different introductions and other animations for the character. But anyways, this was a whole lot of words and sort of fanboyish, so let's wrap things up. First off, I have a history of getting annihilated anytime an abundant amount of artillery is aimed Arlyewards. Yet, despite that personal failing, I not only found One Step Eden to be fair, I also found it fun. Heckin' fun. There's just so much to do in the game. So many diverse synergies to explore and exploit. Like, honestly, it's just been an enjoyable title that I think it's a shame the co-op mode is so janky, because I would really love to drag more of my friends in the game. And yet, overall, I genuinely rate this game as a crit hit, especially given just the ease in which it turned my attempts at giving it a quick poke to go and get some review footage into hour-long adventures into its world. It's a wonder I finished writing this review at all. I lost days being like, yeah, I'm just gonna go and get like 15-30 minutes of this character's footage, yada yada yada. And yeah. Anywho, thanks for tuning in. If you agree, disagree, or just have something to say to me, feel free to comment. And for those interested in more indie reviews, developer interviews, podcasts, or Monday TTRPG content, hit the subscribe button and the bell so you know when there's a new release. There's also a Discord. You can click the link in the banner or the description so you become part of our community, the Crit Hit Cauldron. And lastly, if you'd like to help support the channel, we do have a coffee running now to help supplement funds for our lovely editor Rand, and to make sure we can continue to provide quality content. Again, check the description and the banner for them links. That said, I'll catch you on the next episode of Crit Hit. Take care till then, folks.